I've opened up the scene from the rock rendering, where we had the image plane and the sky dome light. I'll be lighting this spaceship with the same dome light, so that it has consistent lighting overall. I've only gone ahead and deleted the rocks because this will be a whole new this ship rendering will have its whole new rendering project. So let's go ahead and create a project. This will go into lesson 6. We'll call this ship rendering and for animation. Accept. Let's save a scene. Spaceship rendering. Now we only have to get the looked of scene. We have to import that because in that Maya scene we had all our materials attached. So I'll go and import and go to my alien ship looked up project, go to scenes and grab the looked up scene for import, where we have all our textures applied. So that's a ship in there, and if you check in the outliner, we just to see if we don't have any extra stuff. We don't need the ground plane for now. Oh, we don't need that. Ground. We have a dome light. And delete the. So that's a ship. We'll rename this alien ship. No ground plane. Just removing, just cleaning the outliner so that there's no extra stuff in the background. And don't need that as well. So that's a render cam. Final. Call that. And if you look it through our camera view, so that's the image plane with a spaceship on it. We'll go ahead and do animation on them because we already have played with the textures, so we know what kind of look it's gonna give us. So let me make new panel. This will be our camera. This will be a perspective view. And I'll also go to the camera attribute and just set up the overscan so that we know how far we are playing the settings for the ship. So that should be fine. And then let's go ahead and start animating. The camera is here, and this is the grid. So I want the ship to come from quite a bit of distance because it's gonna fly in. And before I do that, let me just duplicate this guy. Just put it there for now, and just do the animation for the first one. Let me first place it as how I want the spaceship to look, position wise. So I want this the first ship to sort of come from the top slowly, and then hover over just a bit. So what I'm gonna do is to set a keyframe, you can activate your auto keyframe, but I prefer doing it with the Shift W Shift E command, or the shortcut key. So Shift W is set a keyframe for translation, Shift E for rotation. So if you look at the image plane, when she opens her arms, or when she puts her arms down, I want the ship to start coming down, like right here. So I'll go to the first frame and put the ship over there somewhere, around somewhere there, and then press Shift W. So that's our home keyframe, and then we can come and go to, let's say, frame 70, and then push it down like so, and press Shift W again. We can go to a camera view to do that. So if you play back, okay, I think that's too fast, so let's shift and drag and put the keyframe down, maybe around 100 frames, and just see the animation again. So it's a huge ship, so I want it to feel a bit more massive instead of coming too fast. I can even slow it down more. And instead of just coming in like that and holding it there, I'll go to the last frame and lift it up just a bit, so that it's sort of like overlay. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then I'll play with the rotation just for the orientation. So in the beginning, now again for the rotation, I'll go ahead and press Shift E for the home key, and then when it comes to 120, I'll just turn the look or the eye of the spaceship towards her like that, and press Shift E again to set a keyframe. That's a very basic animation, as you can see. And I can also, just for a bit of variation, okay, I think I'll do the rotation again. I forgot, I have to come to the first frame and then start from this angle for the rotation, and then by 120 frames I'll make it turn somewhere around here and press Shift E, facing up a bit. And I think, and a little bit of overlay, so it stops here and then turns that way a little bit, and in the end frame, just a little bit of, instead of like a hard turn, we want it to even out towards the end. and then we can open our window, animation, graph editor, and change and do any other subtle or minor changes in there. So let's grab for rotation only, and let's drag these guys. And the translation, why I don't want it to be a Bezier or smooth curve. I want it to be linear when it comes down. So I'll select this guy and make it straight, and I'll grab this keyframe and make it into a linear tangent. So the motion is linear instead of slowing down towards the end. And for some reason my undo cue is turned off, so let me go to preferences and undo. Make it turn it on so I can undo. Let's try, yeah, towards the end I think I can put in some delay. Instead of a hard hit, it just comes down slowly and rises up slowly. So now it looks a bit more massive. You can hide the grid. And for the shadow, I might not use the shadow pass for this shot because either the spaceship is really far in the background, or the terrain is over here is like a valley. So I mean, I can go ahead and do that, but I think we might even do that in comp. And just have another look. Alright, so that's our first ship, and let me grab the other guy and move it over here. So this guy is gonna come in from a bit far back, and I'll just put it into position, and let's go to our tool and make it a object world, and put it there somewhere. And orient it. And let's set a keyframe, Shift W, and just 130 frames will make it come all the way over here. And I'll set a keyframe. Or actually, I'll just make the approach of this ship to be much slow. I'll go to the graph editor, translate. I'll just overshoot it to the timeline towards 240 frames and all, so that the movement of the spaceship is slower. It comes in slowly. Yeah, I think that's working. And then I'll grab the rotation of the ship, press Shift E. By the time it gets to the end frame, we'll make it face towards the actress. So it turns straight up, but we want it to turn when it comes till 100 frames. So I think that's much more cool. Yeah, I think I'll just change the animation for the rotation. When it starts rotating towards the axis. So grab translate Y, sorry, rotate Y, and then instead of such a huge dip, we can put this guy down. And pull this guy out of the bounds of the keyframe, the timeline, and just have a look. I think that's much more smooth. So I think I like the animation of the ship. Yeah, we could have gone and created different texture for the other ship, but for the sake of the tutorial, I think we just duplicate the ship, and also for the sake of time. So I think I'm really happy with the animation. I'll just go and look at the the HDR and just check our lighting. Like I mentioned before, when you use a dome light, you can't really see the image plane. But since I have the background image in my mind, I can imagine the kind of lighting the ship will get. So all the lighting that I'll do for this ship, I'll do it by eye, and in the comp then we'll try to match the look in a better way. So I'll go ahead and check my passes. For now I'll disable my passes, and I'll reduce the samples just for quick test renders. Let's do a test resolution of 50% and hit render camera. I think the lighting is already working because I really like the ambient lighting of the ship because it's an overcast background, and we can use our render AOVs to control the amount of reflective, or sorry, the specularness of the ship. And anything else? Oh, like I said, I won't be rendering the ground pass because I think it's not needed for this shot. because it's an overcast day, and even if there's shadows, there'll be really little like minor shadows, which we can, if you want, then I can go ahead and put it in the nuke script. And now for the same thing again, just to we'll select all the objects in this in the master layer, and just create new layer and assign selected object. So we want to render from our custom layer. Final render ship enemy. Just double checking. Also, before I do anything else, I think I might play with the lights a little bit more. So I'll grab the dome light, and let's play with the exposure. 0.5. Yeah, maybe it's that's too bright. 0.2, 0.1, 0. Okay, so 0.15. We can get rid of the saturation a little bit. And samples, for the test purpose, I'll keep it to 24. We won't be using any GI, so I'll just turn off the GIs, because we don't have any interaction and we don't have any deformation on the geo to benefit from the global illumination. And then that'll be it for the lighting. We can always reiterate with different version, and we could also go ahead and do our RGB lighting path, so we can control our lighting from either of the channel RGB, or we can use the normal path to help us with the lighting. So I'm happy with the lighting. It's a very simple lighting, right? It's just a dome light. I can go ahead and add extra lights, but by looking at the background, I don't feel there should be any more. But maybe there's some kind of reflection lighting going on from the bottom of the ship. So we can do that, or we can use the nuke relighting with the help of world position pass and normal pass to do a bit of 3D lighting, or 3D relighting, sorry. Yeah, for that we have to export a camera, which we already have here. And my cameras are locked, so one final thing before I send it off to render is I'll go ahead and do a high-res render. Go to options, test resolution, in the settings, and then go to my dome light and increase the samples to 64, and my unified sampling to from 4 to 8, and mix samples to 64. And then let me also enable our AOV, so we can have a look what kind of okay, that's too many, so let's recreate our AOVs. So for the AOVs, we're gonna need the depth, but I won't be using that. We need diffuse lighting. We don't have GI. We need the motion vectors. We need the normal pass. We can use puzzle mat, but because we have only 2 objects and they are not overlapping, I can just use the alpha channel of either of the ship and do color grading according to that. Or I'll just add the puzzle mat anyway, so that we don't have to do any extra work in post. We need the reflections and the specular lighting and well positioned pass. So depth, diffuse, motion vectors, normal, puzzle mat, reflections, specular. Is there anything else? No emission, no GI. Yes, motion vector we have. Oh yeah, we need to add motion vectors as well. Well, we have motion vectors, sorry. In the puzzle mat, I'll go and select the output and set as object ID. Set red to be 1, green to be 2, blue to be 3. But we're just going to use orange, red and green. So I'll select the first object and go to redshift. That's object ID 1, and this will be object ID 2. So that's our puzzle mat. And then let me open up redshift render view to see our passes, and hit a high-res render and come back. So the rendering is done, and we can have a look at our passes. Position pass, depth pass, motion vectors, puzzle mat, diffuse lighting, normal pass, reflections, and specular lighting. I found that I think my displacement is a bit too much. So what I'm gonna do is go to my redshift shader, and in my displacement, the scale, I'll set it to just a little bit, 2.2 maybe, yeah. And also looking at the render, not this render, the details are fine. And anything else that I'd like to change? Yeah, I think just the displacement was a bit too much. And then I'll go to the reflection samples. I'll increase it to 64 so that we get noise-free, a noise-free render. We see, like, there is smoothing going on my spaceship, because when I enable Maya's default smoothing, and I go to I enable tessellation, so it gives us smoothing in our render also. So with the new displacement, I'll go ahead and actually I'll also add a shadow AOV, just to see what kind of look it gives, so that we can control in post. So shadow pass, and I'll just go ahead and hit render again, and then come back and take a look at all the passes again. And now I think displacement is okay. So that's before and that's after. So we don't have extreme displacement going on, just subtle details. And look at the shadows. Yeah, we'll be using the shadow pass to control especially these areas where we have the displacement going on, and also these lines, so that we can control with the grade node in Nuke to give the shape more depth with its details. And I think overall the render is fine, and what we can do is prepare our scene for final render or batch render. So I'll go ahead and recreate the path, so it'll be our scene name, not the scene name, the render layer dash, we'll call this ship render final. So that's our final name, ship render final dot 0160. Open EXR compression, we can leave it to default, but even zip is fine. Zip 16. I'll go with zip 16. It gives us a bit more smaller files, but it compresses. The compression is not bad with zip 16. Actually, you know what? I'll just keep it to default. Scan line, okay. Force combine VUD and AOV into single file, so that'll give us a single EXR file. So to crop, I don't know that. So go to 160 animation, frame padding 4, that's the number of digits for our frame numbering. Renderable camera is render cam final. Presets no. So resolution is 1920 by 817. No default light. And then the output, I'll also increase that to 256 because it's GPU rendering, so it's very fast. So you get the highest quality of render. And also the bucket size to 256 is much faster. And that's good on our render settings side. And shader, we can if I get the shader on the hyper shade, just increase the samples for reflection to 128, and our dome light samples, let's increase that to 128 as well, and save a scene. Go to rendering tab and go to render, and we'll batch render.